before we start, this is what I wanted to say to you. So what next week? All we're going to do is we're going to go do a review of everything from the beginning. That's what's going on in the world right now. The first seal, all the way to the Lord comes back. If you remember, about 6 or 7 months ago, we started in the day of the Lord. You know, we learned about it's a day of darkness, a day of the trumpet. It's a day of wrath, right, where he's going to punish the world at Armageddon. And so all we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're just going to go through the whole thing in 1 week and just kind of refresh our minds so that we have it in our mind what we know is going to happen, what we think is going to happen, so that, you know, we're not shocked when these things begin to come to pass. And so, but what I'm going to do this week is, and I'm not even going to tell you, I want you to be really careful when you're listening to me, because all I'm going to tell you this week is where I think we are in Bible prophecy, and what I think is going to happen. I'm not telling you to say that, I'm not telling you to believe in your heart absolutely that everything I'm going to tell you today is absolute positive truth, okay? I'm not trying to tell you any lies or anything like that. I'm just going to tell you, based upon my studies, what I think is going to happen and where I think that we are right now in the world as it pertains to the second coming of Christ. So do y'all understand that, right? That I'm not trying to deceive anybody. I want you to know what I believe and where I believe we are. And so let's start. It says, and Noah went forth, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth, after their kinds went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing, as I have done, while the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So when God destroyed the world with a flood, when he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, he tells you here after that flood that he was going to let everything continue as it was until he comes back and sets up his kingdom. And so God says that he gives rain to who? The good and the evil, right? He basically, he's allowing everything to continue until the judgment. And then at the judgment, if you're an unbeliever, you'll be cast into a lake of fire. If you're a believer who's been disobedient, you'll be cast out of the 1,000-year kingdom. And so he compares that harvest right here. Then Jesus said, sent the multitude away, and went into his house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, and the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil, and the harvest is the end of the world. And so we know that the harvest is the end of the world, because what does he do and we know that the reapers are the angels, because what does he do at the seventh trump? He sends out his angels, and they gather together the elect, right? So that's the harvest. That's the end of the world, the seventh trump. And we talked about that about 6 or 7 months ago. That was one of the first things we talked about with the day of the Lord. And so the end of the world is compared to a harvest. And when he takes up that final harvest at the end of the world, and he uses those angels, and they go out to the four corners and they gather it, then he's going to destroy the world with fire. What I want to do is I want to tell you why, and I don't know that I'll be able to explain this perfectly, guys, but I want to tell you why I think that we are at present in this world in the first seal. Okay? It's my belief that we're in the first seal. Now, let's look at it. I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals. So here he is opening the first seal. And I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse. And well, we know this is the wind, right? We know that God uses the east wind and the west wind to bring in kingdoms and to take kingdoms. So we know that this is the first kingdom. And we know there's going to be four kingdoms, right? So there's going to be four kingdoms that come out of Jerusalem. And we know that they're not Jewish kingdoms. We know they're Gentile kingdoms because Zacharias tells us that those carpenters and those 144,000, they're going to cast out the four horns of the Gentiles, okay? So it is my belief right now that in Israel, there are people that the entire world thinks they're Jews. And God says, I know them who call themselves Jews, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, right? So I believe that kingdom that's in there right now, the white horse, that is the first kingdom. The people that are in Israel right now are the first seal. Okay? Now watch what he says. And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So whoever those people are in Israel right now, they are the people, the kings there, they're conquering and conquering. And so what I think that he means by that is I believe that those people, and I can prove this, that they own all the television networks, they own Hollywood, they are the ones that control the minds of the people, okay? They're not doing it through guns. They're not doing it through weapons. What they're doing it through is by what? Controlling your mind. And so why I say they're not doing it through guns is because look what happens, and this is what I think we're waiting on right here. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red. So when the red horse appears, this is bringing in the second kingdom that will rule from Jerusalem, okay? Now look what he says about the red horse. He says, power was given to him that sat thereon to do what?
Take peace from the earth.
So now think about this. If you're taking peace from the earth, that means what is on the earth during the white horse's reign?
Peace.
There's peace. You can't take peace from the earth unless there's what? Peace on the earth. So this white horse, there is going to appear to be a type of peace on the earth, okay? Now what you're going to tell me is, well, Mark, we're not living in a peaceful earth. Well, that's not what it says. In other words, just because there's a war in Ukraine, right? Just because we had a war with Iraq, does that mean the entire world peace has been taken from the entire earth? No. So in other words, I think we're living in a time, and I'll show you what Matthew says. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" And Jesus answered and said unto them, "Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many." Now look what it says. "And you shall hear of" what? Wars and what? Rumors of wars. That is not the same as what? Taking peace from the entire earth. Right. I believe this right here is the time we're living in. He says, "See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. He says these are the beginning of what? Sorrows. So here's what I think. We are in this time here, the beginning of sorrows. I believe the beginning of sorrows is between the white horse and right before the red horse comes. Now, why I say that is because look what he says about this. How ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as the destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and what? Sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that what? Travaileth. Now, I'm going to take you back and remind you what this is talking about. A woman, which is Israel, is going to have a man-child, the 144,000. And we know that takes place at the sixth seal when the 144,000, the man-child, is raised up in the valley of dry bones and goes into Israel and casts out those four horns. And we know that happens because that happens in the sixth seal. We know in the fourth seal that the fourth kingdom, the last kingdom on this earth, is in power when this child is born, this 144,000, okay? Now, look what he says, because these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, I'm not a woman. I haven't had children. Patricia, you have, and Love, you have. But I'm just going to tell you what y'all can tell me if I'm wrong. There's something that takes place before you go into labor. Is that true? Is there kind of like this feeling of sorrow before you go into labor? No?
I would call it sorrow. Yeah, it's
How would you explain it right before you go into labor? You don't know you're going into labor, but do you have any like feelings of
you have early contractions, little small ones, but then to me, I wouldn't call it sorrow. I'd call it fearful, especially the first one, because you don't know what's fixing to happen.
Okay, so that would be, in a sense, that's what he's talking about here, right? So, because that's why he says you're going to hear of what? Wars and rumors of wars, and then eventually get what's going to happen. There's going to be peace taken from the earth. So I guess that's probably that's the best way to explain it, is the way you just explained it, Patricia. So what is a pang? A pang is extreme what?
Anguish.
Pain. Yeah. Anguish, agony of the body, right? Or childbirth. Travail, because it's going to be the woman. Israel is going to be travailing. To travail means to labor, to toil, to suffer the pangs of childbirth. You're in labor, right? There's pain and there's toil involved, right?
Yes.
Sorrow, right? Because look what it says, pangs and sorrow. Sorrow is the uneasiness or pain of mind, to grieve, to be sad, right? So there's all kinds of things that a woman goes through when she begins to go into labor. And so what I'm going to show you is we're going to talk about Israel for a minute, because the entire thing of the woman going into labor, right, is talking about Israel and the delivering of the man-child, right? Mm-hmm. The 144,000. He says, for what hath man of all his labor and of the vexation of his heart wherein he hath labored under the sun? For all his days are what? Sorrows, and his travail grief. And so that's what we see, that we're going to see this with Israel. And I'm going to show it to you, because God, back in Deuteronomy 28, he told Israel that if they were obedient, right, that he was going to pour all these blessings upon them. But he told them also that if you are disobedient, I'm going to do something to you. Now, we know which one they were, right? They were disobedient. We know they were scattered to the four corners of the earth. He says, the Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thy hand unto for to do. That is what? So whatever your labor you do, right? And
Yeah.
that's because that's travail, right? Is to labor. So whatever you're laboring to do, look what he says. He's going to send cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Now I'm going to show you some of the cursings that they're going to get for being disobedient. Now look what he says. Thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt what? Not prosper in thy ways. So even though you're laboring and you're setting your hand to do things, guess what? You're not going to prosper.
Right.
He says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house. You're going to labor, but guess what? Thou shalt not dwell therein. You know what? You're going to plant the vineyard, but guess what? You're not going to gather the grapes. He says, you know what? That ox that you own, thine ox shall be slain before your eyes. And guess what? Thou shalt not what? Eat it. So all this labor, because you're disobedient, all this labor and pain that you're going through, you're not going to get any of it. He says, thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and thou shalt not be restored to thee. And thou shalt not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. And then look what he says. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors, look what he says, shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. So he's talking to Israel. They're going to be in labor. They're going to be in pain, right? They're going to be doing all these things, and no matter what they do, they're going to be suffering until, guess what? Until the child is delivered.
Right.
Watch this. A little while, and you shall not see me. And again, a little while, and you shall see me, because I go to the Father. Then said some of his disciples among themselves, what is this that he saith unto us? A little while, and you shall not see me. And again, a little while, and you shall see me. And because I go to the Father. They said, therefore, what is this that he saith? A little while. We cannot tell what he saith. Now, Jesus knew that they were desirous to ask him, and said unto him, do you inquire among yourselves of that I said, a little while, and you shall not see me, and again, a little while, and you shall see me? Verily, verily, I say unto you, that you shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice, and ye shall be sorrowful, right? But your sorrow shall be turned into joy. A woman is in sorrow. She's in travail. She's in pain, right? But a woman, when she is, right, in travail, have sorrow, because her hour is come. But as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remembereth what?
No more pain.
So once the 144,000 are born, once they're raised up in the valley of dry bones, right? Israel, remember, they're going to go in there and they're going to cast out the Gentiles. And what's going to, remember, we talked about this last week, what's going to happen after those four horns of the Gentiles are cast out? You're going to see Israelites all from around the world begin to what? Come back to Israel. He says, for joy that a man is born into the world, and ye now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice. So what I'm saying is that right here, I'm going to show you that right here, look, I'll take you all the way back up here. This second seal is going to take peace from the earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how it's going to take peace from the earth, and I'm going to show you this will begin the pain, the labor pains, okay? When that second seal comes in, when that second kingdom comes in, I'm going to show you why it's going to take peace from the earth. And I'm going to show you that I believe this is when the labor pains, not the birth, because the birth takes place at the sixth seal. I'm going to show you the labor pains start in the second seal. Okay, so watch this. He says, upon the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month Sebat, in the second year of Darius, came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a what? Red horse. So you remember up here? Right here. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And he went out, and another horse that was what? Red. So when the white horse is in power, their peace hasn't been taken from the earth yet. There might be wars and rumors of war, but guess what? The peace hasn't been what? Taken from the entire earth. When I say peace is taken from the earth, I'm talking about the United States, I'm talking about Europe, I'm talking about Africa, I'm talking about Asia, I'm talking about the Philippines, I'm talking about South America, I'm talking about peace is taken from the whole earth. Now watch this. So you're going to see here's the red horse. This is the one that's going to take peace from the earth, right? And so he's going to see that man riding upon that red horse. He's going to stand among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, and behind him there were red horses speckled in white. Then said I, O my Lord, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show these what these be. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, remember, this is the one on the red horse, these are whom the Lord has sent to walk to and fro through the earth. And they answered, here's the red horse, right? They answered the angel of the Lord that stood among the myrtle trees and said, we have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, all the earth is what?
It is still.
And it's at rest. So this, the red horse, hasn't happened yet. This is a time when the earth is still at rest. Remember? Right up here. When the red horse comes, he's going to take peace from the earth. So when the white horse, the first kingdom, is in power, there might be wars, there might be rumors of war, but before the red horse comes, the earth is going to appear to be what? At rest.
Right.
Okay? But when that red horse comes, guess what's going to happen? Look, the second seal is opened up, and another horse that was red, power was given to him that sat thereon to do what? And that's the one that, look, that's who Zechariah's talking to, right?
Right.
The man is riding upon a red horse, and then he stands among the myrtle trees, and he's talking to Zechariah. That same one that's riding upon that horse has been given power to do what?
Take peace from the
to
earth.
take peace, because guess what? Right now, the earth is what? Is sitting still, and it's at rest.
Peace and safety, huh?
That's exactly where we're going. Right here. Talking about the day of the Lord. He says, but of the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say what?
Peace and safety.
Peace and safety. When the earth is sitting still in its rest, when there may be wars and there may be rumors of wars, but guess what? The white horse, the first kingdom, is still there, but until that second horse comes, here's what you have. When they shall say peace and safety, because what does the second horse, what does the red horse have power to do? Take what? Peace from the earth. But when they shall say peace and safety, the first seal, guess what? Then sudden destruction, right? He takes peace from the earth. And look what it says. Look what he compares it to. When that happens, sudden destruction cometh upon them as what?
Travail upon the woman with child.
So something's going to happen when that second horse shows up. That second kingdom shows up. It's going to take peace from the earth, and it's going to be as a travail that comes upon a woman with child. In other words, the labor pains begin. Okay? And it says, and they shall not escape, but ye brethren, and this is what I'm going to say to you guys right here. Ye brethren are not in darkness, that the day of the Lord should what?
Overtake you as a thief.
Because that's what we're doing right now. We're making sure that the day of the Lord doesn't overtake you as a thief in the night. So it's my belief that right now we're in the first seal. It's my belief that the Gentile, the first Gentile kingdom, is in Jerusalem. Okay? And that even though we've got, think about it, because look what he says right here. He says, all these things are the beginning of sorrows. All of what things? Well, wars and rumors of wars, and famines and pestilence and earthquakes. See, these are just the beginning. So when you look at the world right now, think about it. We've been dealing with this big old lie about COVID for what, over 2 years now?
Yeah.
We're dealing with this war in Russia and Ukraine that I know they're not telling us the truth about. We're dealing with high gas prices. And I think I was talking to John about this the other day. The thing in the United States is everything, and I mean every business that operates in the United States has stuff delivered to them. Whether it's a big 18-wheeler delivering to a grocery store or a Walmart or whatever, or whether it's just a small business having UPS and FedEx and delivering to them, everything that's delivered to them is delivered in a truck, which is, guess what? Guess how that truck moves? It has to have gas. So when gas goes up, guess what goes up? The price is to deliver it. So if the price to deliver a meat and vegetables and fruits to a store, the price goes up to deliver it, and the grocery store has to pay more for it, guess what they're going to do to you?
Charge you more.
They're going to charge you. So everything, so all the prices are going up. And you know what your boss was so nice to do? He gave you a raise because of that, right?
Mm.
No. So you have the same amount of money, but everything is what? Is going up. And so so to me, we're living in a time where we're in the beginning of sorrows. That we're living in a time where there seems to be peace and safety, right? God says that red horse, that second kingdom, when he comes, guess what? He's going to take peace from the earth. He says, sudden destruction as travail upon a woman. So I believe, this is what I'm telling you, I believe that when that red horse, that second kingdom comes, he's going to do something to take peace from the earth. And when he does, that will begin the labor pains. The second seal will start Israel into labor pains, and their child, the child of Israel, will be delivered at the sixth seal, which is right before the 7 years. Okay, so, and let me tell you, I'm probably, if I die and don't have to come back, I'm probably not going to see it. I'll probably be dead and gone. But the fact of the matter is, this is fast approaching, guys. Now, let me show you. I'm going to show you the first kingdom, okay? So I'm going to try and see why. I'm going to show you, give you some evidence of why I believe this is true. So look at this, because here's the four kingdoms that are coming up. So Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, here's the four winds, here's the four horses, right? Mm-hmm. The four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and here's the four great beasts, or the four kingdoms, coming up from the sea, diverse one from another. Now, So I told you, I believe that the first kingdom's there, right?
Yes.
So that would mean that I believe the first was like a lion. So that means right now I believe that the lion is in Israel. Okay. And he's got eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And then behold, here comes the second one. This would be the red horse. A second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said unto it, right, this is the bear, arise and devour what? Okay. So I believe the first kingdom, the first seal, the lion, is in Israel right now. Okay. So watch this. Now let's look back. The original 4 kingdoms were what? Babylon. What was it? Anybody know what the second kingdom was? Media and Persia, right?
Yes.
Media, Persia. So that's who we'd be talking about. Now they're past, but we know they're going to be right. They're going to come back. So the second, here it is. The first kingdom is the lion. The second kingdom is Media, Persia. Okay, y'all understand that?
Yes.
So watch this. The burden of the desert of the sea as whirlwinds in the south. Remember, the 4 winds, they bring in kingdoms, they take out kingdoms. And here you see the whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it cometh from the desert, from a terrible land. So Isaiah is going to tell you about a vision that he has. He says, a grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and the spoiler spoileth. So we know Media Persia is the second kingdom. So that would be the red horse. That would be the one that takes peace from the earth, right?
Right.
Y'all understand that, right, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So look what he says. Go up, O Elam, and Elam is a part of the Media Persia Empire. But look what he says. Besiege, O who?
Media.
So that's the second kingdom. So you see the whirlwinds, you see the 4 winds coming, you see the second kingdom, Media, and he's telling that second kingdom to do something. Besiege, O Media. All the sighing thereof have I made to cease. Therefore are my loins filled with pain. When you see the second kingdom, guess what you're going to do? Pangs have taken hold upon me as the what? So every time you see the second kingdom, guess what you see? You see the beginning of the labor pains.
Right.
Okay, so let's see what this second, because the second kingdom, look what he's told to do. We know they take peace from the earth. We know that they start the labor pains. He tells the second kingdom to besiege. Now look what he says. I was bowed down at the hearing of it. I was dismayed at the seeing of it. My heart panted, fearfulness affrighted me. The night of my pleasure hath he turned into fear unto me. Prepare the table, watch in the watchtower, eat, drink. Arise, ye princes, and anoint the shield. For thus hath the Lord said unto me. So this is what Isaiah has to do. He says, go, set a watchman, let him declare what he seeth. And he saw a chariot with a couple of horsemen. We know who the horsemen are. Those are the winds coming in. Now, I don't understand this yet, so I'm not going to try to explain it. He says a chariot of asses, a chariot of camels, and he hearkened diligently with much heed. Now look what the watchman's going to say, okay? And he cried a what?
Lion.
So remember, what's the first kingdom?
A lion.
A lion. What's the second kingdom? Oh, Media and Persia, right?
Yes.
And what did he just tell Media Persia, the red horse, who's going to take peace from the earth, what did he just tell him to do? Besiege. Besiege who? Well, let's look. And he cried, a lion. Here's the first kingdom. My Lord, I stand continually upon the watchtower in the daytime, and I am set in my ward whole nights. And behold, here cometh a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen. And look what he says. He answered and said, who is Babylon in prophecy?
Israel, Jerusalem.
It's Jerusalem, right?
Yes.
And look what he says. So we know that the lion, or at least I believe that the lion right now is in Israel. And when the second kingdom, Media Persia, comes, guess what they're going to do? You're going to hear him say, he answered and said, Babylon or Jerusalem is what?
Fallen.
Is fallen. So what I believe starts the labor pains is I believe the second kingdom, which modern day, that is Iran, right? I believe that Iran is going to destroy Jerusalem. And when Iran, the red horse, destroys Jerusalem, it's going to take peace from the earth. And when he destroys Jerusalem, it's not only going to take peace from the earth, it is going to start labor pains. All right, so I know, guys, I know this is just my, like I said, be careful, don't take it all to heart. I just want to warn you, this is what I think is going to happen, okay? So I don't want y'all to get, I just want you to be aware that this could possibly happen, that Iran is going to come along sometime and they're going to destroy Jerusalem, and that will begin the second kingdom. Okay, that'll be the red horse. Now watch this. So you say, well, so if the woman starts her labor pains, Israel starts her labor pains in the second seal, right? And she doesn't deliver, because that's what the sixth seal is. Remember, that's the valley of dry bones. The man-child is the woman being delivered, the woman delivering the man-child. So from the second seal begins the labor pain, and the delivery is the sixth seal. How do we know when the sixth seal will be here? How many years? Well, let me show you what I think. He says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build what?
Jerusalem. So
when the second kingdom comes, because the first kingdom's in power, when that second kingdom comes and Jerusalem is destroyed, right? That begins the birth pangs. And there's going to be a commandment, because Jerusalem's been destroyed, there's going to be a commandment to restore and build what? Jerusalem. And when they give that commandment, whenever it is, I'm not sure, but whenever they give that commandment, this is the valley of dry bones. This is when the Lord shows up. Remember? He shows up in the valley of dry bones, and it says they follow him whithersoever he go up, and he takes them down into Israel, into Jerusalem, and they cast out the horns of the Gentiles. So from the commandment to rebuild Jerusalem, because it has fallen, to the time that Jesus shows up in the valley of dry bones is going to be 49 years. Okay? Now, that's my opinion of what's going to happen. So, what do I believe is going to happen after that? Well, when he shows up at the sixth seal, guys, remember, this all started, these labor pains started, who's in power when the labor pains start? The second kingdom, right?
Yes. The
second kingdom the red horse takes peace from the earth when he destroys Jerusalem. And he doesn't deliver the 144,000 to the sixth seal. The thing is the third seal is the third kingdom. And the fourth seal, the final kingdom in the entire world, is the fourth seal. So when the man child, when the 144,000 are delivered in the Valley of Dry Bones, we already know that the fourth kingdom, the final kingdom, the Antichrist kingdom, is already in power. So when that 144,000 comes, that means that the second kingdom, the fourth kingdom's in power. And so therefore, somewhere between that, the time that the woman goes into birth pangs till the time she is delivered, that means that third kingdom has already come and go. So we know from the time the woman Israel starts her birth pangs, because Jerusalem is destroyed, to the Valley of Dry Bones, somewhere in between there, the third kingdom has to take place. Now I'm going to show you who I think the third kingdom is, and I'm going to tell you why I think they come into power. Okay, so I think here's what I believe so far. We're in the first seal. The people that are in Israel right now call themselves Jews. They're not Jews. They're a Gentile nation, right? The second, when everybody thinks everything's all right in the world, when they shall say peace and safety, all of a sudden that red horse, that second kingdom, Iran, comes along and takes peace from the earth by destroying Babylon. Now I'm going to ask you a question. I'll ask Carlos, I ask Patricia, John and Love may understand this too, but most of the people in our country, Christian-wise, believes that the people that are in Israel right now are the true Jews.
Yes.
Okay? And they will defend, we do everything we can to defend the people that we think are the real Jews.
Right.
So let me ask you, if Iran comes around and destroys Jerusalem, what do you think the United States will do?
Fight.
They're going to go attack Iran, aren't they?
Yes.
There will be a cry, not just from a lot of people in the world, but from the United States. There will be a cry to put down Iran because of what they've done to what they think are the real Jews. And I think that's what you're going to see. Now watch this. So the second kingdom is in power, right? Yes. Iran. They've destroyed Jerusalem. Now watch this. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and wine. Now, I believe this is a description of the United States. I believe that the United States controls a lot of the food that's made in the world. Now, but regardless, I want to look at all the verses that talk about the third kingdom. Now, we'll look at this. After this, I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. So here's the third kingdom, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads. So we know the original leopard was Greece. We know the original, when Alexander the Great died, his kingdom was divided into 4, right? But we also know that whatever the third kingdom is that's coming upon this world, guess what? He's going to be divided into 4. And when he takes power, when he takes over after the second kingdom, guess what? Dominion's going to be given to him. So he's going to have power over the entire world, at least temporarily. So here it is. The second kingdom has taken over. He's destroyed Jerusalem, right? And he's in power. So let's look at the second kingdom. I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. Okay, you're going to find out in just a second, if you don't already know, this is the second kingdom. So right here, when you look at this, guess who's in power? So when you see right here, you see the ram, you're seeing the red horse. He's already put that first kingdom down. We're in the second seal here, right? So you see the ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. So when you see the ram, this is Media Persia. So guess what? You're going to see the ram pushing what? Westward and northward and southward. So here's what you'll see right here. Here's Media Persia. Here's a ram. And you're going to see him pushing northward, not eastward, but northward, southward, and westward. And guess what's westward? Right here, Israel, right? You're going to see them pushing, and they're going to push their power upon all these people in this area over here. Now look what he says. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did, talking about Iran, talking about the second kingdom, he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, so here it is, we were in the second kingdom, the second seal's been opened, the red horse piece has been taken from the earth, and then you're going to see the third kingdom. And here he is. The third seal is being opened right here. Behold, a he-goat came from what? The west. But he doesn't just say the west. The he-goat came from the west on the face of where? Okay, so let's look. So here it is. Here is Iran right here. Y'all can see that. And remember, he's pushing northward and southward and over toward Israel right here. So when you say the he-goat, because the second kingdom's in power in Jerusalem, I saw a he-goat come from the west on the what? On the face of the whole earth. So what is west on the face of the whole earth? The United States. The first kingdom the first seal's been opened. That first kingdom is in Israel right now. The second kingdom, when that seal's open, the red horse, he's going to take peace from the earth by destroying Jerusalem. The third kingdom, which I think may be the United States, is going to come from the west on the face of the whole earth. And guess what? Touch not the ground. Why would he touch not the ground? Is because look what he has to come across to get there.
The ocean.
He got to come across the Atlantic Ocean, doesn't he? Yes. And he's going to touch not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn. So there's going to be a notable king, I believe, in the United States. And he came to the ram. He comes to Media Persia. He comes to Iran, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. So whoever the third kingdom is, which I think is the United States, is going after Iran destroys Jerusalem. He's going, that third kingdom, when that third seal is open, he's going to come and he's going to destroy Iran in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him. And guess what? Guess what the third kingdom is going to do? He's going to smote the ram, and he's going to break his 2 horns. And there's going to be no power in Media Persia, in Iran, to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was nobody in the world could deliver the ram out of the he-goat's hand. Therefore, guess what? The he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, so when the United States, I think this is, now guys, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if he's talking about the United States, he's going to say that when the United States is strong, whoever that king, that president is going to be what? Broken. And out of that president that's broken, or out of that king, is going to come up 4 other kings toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of those 4 is going to come the false prophet. We've already talked about him. I ain't got to prove he's the little horn. We've already done that. So I believe that the false prophet will probably come from the United States. Now understand, I believe the false prophet is a true Israelite. So he's probably going to be a black man, right? And so we're going to go down here. Now let's look at this was the vision, guys. Let's look at the interpretation. He said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. He's going to let you know this is at the end of the world, for at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the what?
Kings of Media Persia.
Of Media and Persia. Well, we need to know that because guess what? Up here, remember, go up, O Elam, besiege who?
Media.
So the 2nd kingdom is told to go down here, and they end up destroying Jerusalem. But then, when they're in power, guess what? Then, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the 1st king. Now that being broken, 4 are going to stand up. 4 kingdoms are going to stand up out of the nation. Whatever nation this 3rd seal is, it's going to be divided into 4 kingdoms. Now, I'll tell you, there's already talk here in Texas about if things don't change in our government, that they want their own country. They basically want to secede from the United States. Yes. Now, I don't know whether that'll happen or whether it won't happen, but if this is talking about the United States, guess what? He says 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the what? So you can already see division in our country because there's so many different types of beliefs in our country.
Right.
He says 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to a full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And this is talking about the false prophet. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. We know the devil gives him his power. And he, the false prophet, shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through the false prophet's policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he, the false prophet, shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. And the false prophet shall also stand up against who?
Prince of princes.
And he shall be broken without hand. Because we know that the false prophet, even though he comes out of the 3rd kingdom, he will be ruling with the Antichrist in the final and 4th kingdom. Okay? So, it says you right here that the false prophet is going to stand up against Christ, and the false prophet is going to be what? Broken. And that's what he says. I saw the Antichrist, and I saw the 10 kings, the kings of the earth. I saw their armies gathered together to make war with Christ, that's him that sat on the horse, and against his army. And the beast, the Antichrist, was taken, and with him, guess who? The false prophet that wrought miracles before him, which with which he had deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both, the Antichrist and the false prophet, these both were cast alive into what? So when they stand up against Christ, the Antichrist and the false prophet are going to be broken without hand. And that's what he tells you. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the false prophet spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the what? The burning flame. These both were cast alive into the what? The burning flame, right?
Yes.
So, quick review. And then we're going to talk about the 4th kingdom, and we'll close, guys. I right now believe that in Israel there are people who are Gentiles that are calling themselves Jews. So part of the reason that I believe they are Gentiles is, number one, the color of their skin. Number two, they are Babylonian. They use the Talmud. They're not Jewish. God says that he has to cast out the horns of the Gentiles, so they have to be there in the end of the world. But also, in 1948, this is how they became a nation, and this is what I believe is Satan has deceived the entire world. There was an agreement called the Balfour Declaration, and in this declaration, what happened was Hitler was basically destroying the Great Britain, England's navy with their submarines. And they were losing the war. And America said, we're not getting in the war. We're not getting in World War II. And so Rothschild came along and he said, you know what? If you will sign over the land of Israel to us, the Rothschilds, guess what we'll do? We'll get America to come into the war so you can defeat Hitler. That was called the Balfour Declaration. So when Germany lost the war and America and Great Britain won the war, this declaration was, what happened was the land of Israel was given to the Rothschilds. And then all of a sudden you see all these people going into the land. And what they tell you is that was the Israelites coming back to the land. That's the fulfilling of all the prophecies, right? Of Israel coming back to the land. But we've already proven that the people don't come back to the land until the 144,000 are raised up in Ezekiel 37. And then farther down after the Valley of Dry Bones, we see after that 144,000 goes in there and cast out the horns of the Gentile, then we see Israel coming back to the land. That is the real, true restoration of Israel. So what you saw in 1948 was not the restoration of Israel. It was a deception. The devil always tries to do what? Deceive and impersonate things that God has done, right?
Right.
He wants the world, and he's deceived most of the world into thinking that was the true restoration of Israel when it really hasn't happened yet. It will not happen until the sixth seal. So anyway, the first seal, I believe, is they're in power. I believe that everybody, we're living in a beginning of sorrows. I believe everybody, everybody's upset. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. But all of a sudden, what's going to happen is you're going to see Iran destroy Jerusalem. And that is going to do two things. It's going to start the labor pains for Israel to deliver the man-child, and it's going to take peace from the earth. When that happens, I think you're going to see the world is going to be very angry, especially the he-goat, especially the United States, because we are a so-called Christian nation, though we don't act like it. We're a so-called Christian nation who believes that the people in Israel are the true Jews, and what's going to happen is when Iran destroys Jerusalem, America is going to respond to that. And they're going to come from the west on the whole side of the world, and they are going to pour out their anger on Iran. When they are in power, they're going to be divided. We're going to have all kinds of division in this country. We already have division in this country. And we're going to be divided into 4 kingdoms out of the United States. I know that's hard for people to believe, but I believe that's what's going to happen. And out of one of those is going to come the false prophet. And then what you're going to see is you're going to see the 4th seal open. And this is before the man-child's born. You're going to see the 4th seal open, and the 4th kingdom is going to be in Jerusalem. So we're going to look at the final kingdom and see what it says. He says, "Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass. Okay, now here's the fourth kingdom. His legs of iron and his feet, part of iron and part of what? Clay. So how many toes do your feet have?
10.
You have 10. You have 10 total toes, right?
Yes.
And that what you're going to see is these represent the 10 kings that are going to be ruling with the Antichrist. Now you're going to also see, thou sawest till the stone, this is Christ, was cut out with hands, which smote the image upon his what?
Feet.
That were of iron and clay, and break them in pieces. So if you've got an image standing up and you destroy his feet, what's going to happen to the image?
It's going to fall.
It's going to fall. Then was the iron, the clay, that's the fourth kingdom, the brass, the third kingdom, the silver, the second kingdom, and the gold broken to pieces, how? Together. And they became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote the image became a what? Great mountain, and filled the whole earth. And that's Christ bringing in his kingdom. Now that was the dream. Now let me give you the interpretation. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king, right? And so he goes down and he tells Nebuchadnezzar, you're the head of gold. So whoever the first kingdom is the gold. And we're not going to get into all the kingdoms. We're talking about the final kingdom upon the earth. The fourth kingdom, which is the fourth seal, shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, here's the 10 kings, part of potter's clay and part of iron. Guess what? The kingdom shall be what? So even though it's the final kingdom, this is Satan, right? And guess what? His kingdom is not going to be completely and totally united because he's the father of all lies, right?
Right.
There's going to be Christians that are rebellion. There's going to be Israelites that are rebelling. There's going to be probably even some of these kings. And I'm going to show you in a minute that these 10 kings, when the false prophet shows up, he's getting rid of 3 of them. And he says, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with merry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly what? Strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with merry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Now look what he says. And in the days of these kings, right? Because when this fourth kingdom is in power, he says, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven do what? Set up a kingdom. And that's what you see up here, right? You see the stone smote the image and became a what? Great mountain and filled the whole earth. So in the days of these kings, God is going to set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume, guess what? All these kingdoms. And it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. So when that fourth kingdom stands up, you're going to know, and you see those 10 kings, right? You know that you're getting close to what? God, the God of heaven, setting up his kingdom.
Right.
Now watch this. Let's look at the fourth kingdom one more time, and we'll close. And after this, I saw in the night visions, and behold. So here's the fourth seal. Here's the fourth kingdom, right? And behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts. The first 3 that came up, right? the lion, the bear, the leopard. It was different than all these that were before it, because guess what it's going to have? It's going to have 10 horns. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up from among those 10 horns, those 10 kings, the false prophet, before whom there were 3 of the first horns, what? So when he talks about those toes, guess what? He says they're partly strong and partly what? Divided. They're part iron, they're part clay. So when the false prophet shows up, guess what he's going to do? He's going to take 3 of those kings and he's going to pluck them up by the roots. And in this false prophet were eyes like the eyes of a man, and he had a mouth that speaketh great things. And I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days. This term here is a term for Christ, because it says, and the Word was, right? The Word was with God, and the Word was God, right? The same was from the beginning, right? Christ, the Word, has been around for how long?
Forever.
Forever. And he calls him here, and I'll show you this in a minute. He calls him the Ancients of Days. He sits, in other words, it's the judgment, whose garment was as white as snow, and the hair of what? So the Ancients of Days is an actual his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were open. And I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words of the false prophet, and I beheld even to the Antichrist was slain, and his body was destroyed and given to the burning flame. So when you see the 4th kingdom, and you see the 10 kings, and you see the false prophet, you can absolutely know that, guess what? Christ is getting ready to set up. He's getting ready to show up, and the judgment is getting ready to be set, and the books are getting ready to open, and we're getting ready to be judged. Now, this is the vision. Let's look at the interpretation, and we will close. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and I asked him the truth of all this. So he told me, and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are 4 kings, which shall what? Arise. Understand what I believe. The first one has risen, is in power. They're going to arise out of the earth. But when you see these 4 kings arise, guess what? After the 4th one's risen, the saints of the Most High shall what?
Take the kingdom.
And possess the kingdom forever and ever. So once you're going to have the 1st seal open, the 2nd seal, the 3rd seal, the 4th seal, the 4th kingdom's in power. The 5th seal is opened up. He says, they say, how long? He says, rest a little season. The 6th seal opens up. Guess what? You have the man-child being born. You have Christ taking them down there and kicking out the horns of the Gentiles. You have Israelites starting to come back to the land, and then they make the covenant for 7 years, and you begin the final 7 years. The 4th kingdom is in power, and when you see that 4th kingdom in power, you can know that this right here is getting ready to happen. The saints of the Most High are going to take the kingdom. He says, then would I know the truth of the 4th beast, the 4th seal, the pale horse, that final kingdom, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. Not just know the truth of that final kingdom, but of the what? The 10 kings that were in his head, and of the false prophet, which came up. And before whom, guess what? When that false prophet comes up, what does he do to 10 of those kings? He plucks them up. 3 fell, even of that horn, that false prophet, that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And look what it says. And I beheld, and the same horn, the false prophet, is going to make war with who?
Saints.
And he's going to prevail against those saints until the Ancient of Days, Christ, came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. So he's saying that this false prophet is going to make war against the saints. He's going to prevail against them until Christ comes back, right? So look what he says. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour, guess what? The whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 kings, the 10 horns out of this kingdom are what? 10 kings that shall arise, and another, the false prophet, shall rise after those 10 kings, and he shall be diverse from the first. And guess what that false prophet will do? He shall subdue what?
3 kings.
Those 10, he's going to subdue 3 of them.
Yes.
So that's what you see. You see the fourth kingdom, that's the fourth seal. You see the 10 kings that give their power and their strength to him. You see the false prophet show up, which is he's coming from the third kingdom, and he's going to subdue 3 of those kings. And that false prophet is going to speak great words against the Most High, and he's going to do what? Wear out the saints of the Most High, right? Up here it says the same horn made war with the saints, and he prevailed against them. Here it just says that he's going to what? Wear them out. And that false prophet is going to think to change times and laws, and he's talking about the saints, are going to be given unto his hand so that he can wear them out. He can prevail against them. How long, how much time is going to be given to him to do that? 3.5 years. But the judgment shall set, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to, guess who? The people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. So I'm going to review with you one more time, guys, what I think is going to happen. I'm going to tell you what I think, or where I think we are in the world. The first seal's been opened. That kingdom that is in Israel right now, that is a Gentile kingdom, that is not true Israelites. They're in power. They are conquering, and they're conquering, but they're not doing it with what? With weapons. They're doing it with what? Spiritual weapons, right? Spiritual wickedness in high places. They're using the television. They're using the radio. They're using Hollywood. They're just they're conquering people's minds.
Yes.
But when that red horse comes along and takes peace from the earth and destroys Jerusalem, come up, O Media, besiege. Babylon is fallen. I saw that line. When he's fallen and he takes power, the world is going to, especially the United States, is going to think that Iran just destroyed the true Israelites, just killed them. Took them out of Israel, took over Jerusalem, and they're going to be angry. And you're going to see the he-goat, the third kingdom, that third seal being opened. You're going to see him come from the other side of the world and pour out his wrath upon Iran. And when that third kingdom is powerful, whoever that king is that had the power to go destroy Iran, he's going to be broken, and there's probably going to be a lot of division about why us doing this. So I think you're going to see a division in the country. I think you're going to see, out of one of those 4 kingdoms, you're going to see the false prophet stand up. And when that 4th kingdom finally comes in, it's going to be a combination of all 4. There's going to be 10 kings in it. And they're basically going to be given power over the world until Christ comes back. And like I said, I'm probably leaving out a few details there, but I just want you to have a general idea of where I think we are and what we're going to see here really, really soon. And we'll get a little bit more detail next week as we go all the way from the beginning of this to all the way to the end. And so that's all that I've got. So does anybody have any questions?